Welcome to episode 258 of Real Therapy, where we talk about how movies make us feel. I'm Donovan Thompson with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today we are joined by Luke Irvin, host of Take 5, a YouTube channel dedicated to exploring all things film. He joins us today to discuss the season 1 finale of Alien Earth. Did it stick the landing or did it crash and burn? All things will be revealed in this exciting episode of Real Therapy, and you know what that means.
They're gonna talk about how it makes them feel. They're gonna watch all the movie reels, cause it's Dan and Don in Real Therapy. It's real.
Hey man, how you doing?
Doing great. How are y'all?
Doing good. I'm doing better knowing that you're here. It's been a long time since you were on the podcast.
It's been a minute, yeah.
Yeah, we used to do 2-for-1 Joe back in the day for the OG members, and that went to the wayside. But I'm glad to have you on your first appearance on Real Therapy.
Yeah.
It's a much different show than previously. Much different. But today we're talking Alien Earth. I think you reached out a few weeks ago now, and like, hey, we're kind of all talking about how we're all watching it, and me and Daniel have been really trying to make an effort to bring guests back on the show, just because we enjoy it, and we just think it's fun, and we also want to get different perspectives. And I can't think of a better show to bring you on than talking about Alien Earth. And for our previous listeners, we skipped last week for Alien Earth episode, I think 6 or 7, and 7. Okay. And so now we're kind of getting to talk about those last two, and then of course the season overall.
But before we do that, did you know that Zoom has features like if for our video listeners right now? I just turned my eyebrows red. Luke, can you confirm this, that my eyebrows are red
so
right now?
Yeah.
So if you were watching this on YouTube, you would already know this. You would have seen my eyebrows turn red, and you could be if you subscribe to our YouTube channel or any of our other feeds. So you make sure that you get this podcast every time. You never miss it, never a week. Please go subscribe. Thank you. I just for our audio listeners, I turned the red eyebrows off because I want this to be a serious discussion. So
This is a very serious discussion. Please subscribe. Please give us 5-star reviews on all podcast services. So let's get into it. And before we kind of dive into the season finale and just the season overall, I want to catch up Daniel and myself and the viewers and listeners. Luke, what did you think so far of Alien Earth? And also kind of give me your background and your relationship with the IP itself.
kind of up to the finale. Like,
Yeah. I can't remember. I'll send y'all a photo after this, just so you can see how much the Alien IP has been involved in my life. Daniel or Donovan, I think I've already sent you the picture, but I'll send it to both of you. I've been with this franchise like as long as I can remember. My dad was a massive fan, not so much of Alien, but also like the Predator franchise as well. And hardcore fans, AVP, like these worlds intersect, and like there's a lot of cool stories that we could get. I did lose my dad beginning of the year, and one thing that I got was he had a pretty massive collection of just memorabilia from Alien. And so like right here in my studio, like I've got it all in a display case, and like it's pretty incredible, and it's always fun to look at. So, when they announced this series, we were so hyped about it. So we talked about it a lot, because going into this, I was very curious what they were wanting to do with it. Series as a whole, I'm a little bit of a mixed bag on it, and we can get into some of those specifics. From a very high level, the way they opened the series got me excited, because I was expecting we were going to go into this more so from the perspective of the corporations, because that is something within the Alien franchise we haven't dived as much into as I'd like. Like really what's going on behind the scenes with Weyland-Yutani. Like watching all the movies, you kind of know like why they're going after the xenomorph, but it really goes down to like the crew members that they're sending out, or that end up getting redirected to find these creatures, and like what they go through, but not so much of like Weyland's and Yutani's motives and like what's really driving them. And I was really hoping we would get more into that. Not as much, because this series is basically an alternate universe of Aliens. It's not canon per se. I would say it's loosely canon, and we can go into like where I could see them going based off other source material. So I was a little disappointed there. I wanted more, kind of like what Apple TV is doing with the Godzilla IP, right? With Monarch, like going more into the Monarch Corporation around the whole like Titan monsters. So I would love to see them go more into that. But I think there's a lot of what they did in the series that holds true to the feel of Alien, especially like the spacecrafts and the crew and just like that whole like episode 5 was just like so good. I really really enjoyed that. I do wish they kind of like put that a little bit earlier.
Just to give some perspective for me and the listeners,
Mhm.
let me rapid fire you at least like the controversial aliens. What do you feel about Prometheus? Did you like it, love it, mixed bag? What?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like Prometheus and Covenant, I'm a fan. I do enjoy them, and I do revisit them
Sure.
fairly often. Uh, I see a lot of people getting frustrated as like we needed that trilogy closed, and I've seen early confusion with viewers of like I'm not seeing how this really ties into David and his motives and how this could lead to this. But the thing is like this is kind of like I said, loosely canon. I don't think we're gonna get any references to the prequels. Maybe something could happen if they continue on with this, where we do get a little bit more actively canon with Wayland Yutani. But
What did you feel about Romulus? How did you like Romulus?
oh yeah, I like Romulus.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely a strong contention that did not like it.
I
Like,
know. My
and
brother,
so
my brother was not a fan.
okay.
I saw it multiple times in theater. Like I soaked that one up. Like I really enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with that. But yeah, all in all, like there's a lot of things we can get into, especially when we look at this as being like its own thing, bringing in the 5 corporations. We could talk about that some. There's a lot I really, really enjoyed in this. There's some things I wasn't completely sold on when it comes to the finale. I kind of predicted where they are going with this. Uh, Definitely, my frustrations is it's breaking away from like the focus around Alien and like the motives of like these creatures are perfection, the way that they can just everything about the xenomorph and what it does and what they're going after never really felt like a big focus here. Especially like I was very curious with the character of Kirsch. Like I was very very curious if they were going to put a big twist on this character, and they didn't, unfortunately. We can go into that. But yeah, like well, yeah. I do enjoy the series. I'm kind of rewatching it again because there's a lot of stuff I just want to like sink my teeth into a little bit more. But I do have some nitpicky things with it.
Let's kind of go around the table here and kind of get your initial thoughts on the finale here. And let's start with Daniel, and then we'll go to Luke and then me. Daniel, how'd you feel about the finale here? And give me your big picture thoughts on the season overall.
Sure. Yeah. I'm a little more with Luke on the finale, and just in terms, I think it was a little anticlimactic. I was kind of expecting more to happen than did. I was kind of frustrated with some things that they left for next season that I felt like we deserved to get this season. That the show kind of built up like we were going to get this season, and it feels a little bit sleight of hand to not give it up to us last second, especially with knowing how long Noah Hawley can take to make TV shows, like 3 to 4 years sometimes in between his shows. This hasn't even got renewed for season 2. I'm sure it will. It broke, it was top of the streaming charts and whatnot. But yeah, the finale, there was no point when I was bored. There was no point where I'm like checking my phone or anything. Like I was hooked the whole way. I enjoy these characters. I enjoy the kids. I really like them. I know some people hate them. I like them. I think they're fun. I think some of the acting, some of the physical acting that some of those people are doing in adult bodies to appear childlike is really great. Really, really great. And so I have enjoyed that. I enjoy what we're getting out of this, the hints at the corporations and stuff like that. I'm such a late comer to the alien world that I don't really have any too hard biases towards what Alien is supposed to be, right? Like I didn't grow up with Alien and Aliens, and then everything was supposed to be actiony after that. And I'm not, no, it's like I like both. I like action. I like lore and science. I like weird aliens and gore. All of it. To me, it's all Alien. And so I didn't necessarily feel like I felt like I was getting Alien. It felt very Alien in tone, in style, all of these things. I agree. The Xenomorph did feel like more of a background character. Personally, that didn't bother me. I know there's even like I was reading. Apparently, there's even some quote unquote controversy about Prometheus and how it's consistent in terms of like what it's showing on the murals versus the Xenomorph. Like it kind of contradicts itself to some degree, or the lore does. And so I guess what I'm saying is like, it felt messy to a degree towards the end. Like it felt like it had a lot of things really interesting flowing. I don't think they all came together. I guess to me, it's like, this didn't offend me by the end of it. At the beginning, I really loved the show. At the end of it, I like it. It's good. I'm ready for season 2, but I don't necessarily know if it reached the heights I thought it could. So I'm interested to get more into the Xenomorph about like why. I mean, I guess I get it from a sentiment perspective, why people like the Xenomorph. Like it's just what Alien was for so many years. I mean, even just the sequels, like it's all about the Xenomorph. Until like Prometheus. And so like I get it from like a sentiment value that you grew up with 30 years of Xenomorphs and all of a sudden this franchise isn't about Xenomorphs. That feels weird. Anyway, so it's like I see it. I think it's interesting how much, at least in the circles that I have my toe dipped into, how controversial this show is, and how some people are just kind of. Yeah, anyway, I feel like I'm rambling and I'm not saying anything new. So Donovan, I want to let you go.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to piggyback on that last bit there is, it's kind of, I do have really big ties to this franchise like Luke does. It's kind of the equivalent of like having Star Wars, but like no Jedi, or having a movie set in Gotham. I'm not, well, no, but I'm saying that it is still a jump. I mean, for a lot of people, some people like Jedi versus Sith and the Force and things like that.
Sure.
And this, I mean, and I'm in love with Andor. It's the best Star Wars we've ever gotten. It's the best, probably consistent quality we've ever gotten. It's not my favorite just because I have nostalgic ties, but it's probably the best. I mean, it's hard for me to argue against that. Or also like having a movie or TV show set in Gotham, and Batman's not in it, so like I can understand those kind of complaints from fans, but as people who've been watching the show so far, they probably also understand I really like this show. I've seen, I'm in love with the Xenomorph design and just the life cycle and even the bigger things like the Alien Queen and other things like that. But I like the sci-fi. I like kind of getting into, questions of humanity and questions of like what the future brings, and kind of, really summing up the title of really the whole season. And this was the title of the finale, was The Real Monsters. Like, who are the real monsters? Is it the corporations? Is it the humans? Is it the androids, cyborgs, these new hybrids, or is it the aliens, And so I think it's kind of one of the main themes of the show. As far as the finale goes, I'm kind of with you guys in the fact that I wish it had like 20, 25 more minutes at least extra. It felt a little shorter for me. And also, it kind of put us in a place where all the threads are still going and nothing was really closed off, and like no one died. They kind of did a lot of fake outs. You think her brother's going to die. You think Boy Genius is going to die. You think like everyone's going to die at some point. And they are. And at the very end, they're all in that cage. And I even though I'm like, I was in the moment like sad to see these characters go, because I was like, oh, it's really surprising, and like I'm gonna miss that character. Then I was even kind of more sad that they didn't die when I saw them in the cage, because like, oh, it feels like we're just, we're not done yet, and not done like in a non-positive way. Like I was
plot armor was strong.
Exactly, and that's a better way of putting it. And but that being said, I'm hoping, praying that we get a season 2. You could definitely you could extrapolate an ending from this if you really wanted to, but I don't think it's satisfying at all in terms of what you really want from it from the show. And you're right, the alien is in the background. It is really fun seeing the other aliens though and what they can do. Alien Romulus. I love Alien Romulus. It's got its problems. It relies a little too much on nostalgia, in a lot of ways, but overall, I think it uses the xenomorph in like a pitch perfect way. And I was kind of also, you know, wishing that the xenomorph in Alien Earth was utilized better. It felt like the way it was shot, the way it was moving, wasn't my ideal version of it. And like, I mean, they did pretty damn good in Romulus. But it's okay if we're doing different things. Romulus is kind of really feeling like an alien movie, and this is feeling like a movie. It's in an alien universe, but we're kind of dealing with other themes and characters, and obviously has to be more drawn out. Overall, I really like the show. I think it's kind of slower in places, but I'm really curious now as to what season two will be. Where are we going with it? I'm hoping the xenomorph becomes a bigger threat. I'm hoping we get more than two xenomorphs. I'm really hoping that the alien queen comes into play. And last thing I'll say before I get Luke's comments on the finale is Daniel has not seen Covenant, Alien 3, or Alien Resurrection. And I really want us to watch
Or
those
AVP.
movies. Yeah, AVP or AVP Requiem.
Or
To
Alien
me,
4, right?
that's Resurrection. To me, AVP and AVP Requiem are the main two that could not that wouldn't fit in canon. I think they still can technically, but I think they're the hardest to fit in there. And I want to talk to Luke about this here in a second. I do think Alien there still fits in the canon right now in regards to the original movies and even Romulus, those kind of things. But that being said, we need to watch those three movies, Daniel, just so you can be caught up and you'll see even more of the echoes of this show and Romulus and those other three movies. But Luke, what did you think about the finale?
Yeah, that's fascinating points. I mean, yeah, I'm on board with y'all. I mean, like the struggle with this series is maybe this. I don't know if this is too harsh. It almost feel like identity crisis at a lot of times of like where they really want to go with this
There's a lot going on.
because there's a lot going on. Yeah, it's supposed to be in this world where we have the corporations that are now colonizing other planets. We're focused around this cruise ship that's gone to find all of these various species to bring back now, and which that whole thing is like the Weyland Yutani Corporation. But I do love the setup of like having that ship, that corporation particularly, crash land on the Prodigy's island. So now it becomes this like corporation of like, oh, now that's my stuff. But yeah, it was disappointing to have like the alien as more of a background, bringing in all these new species. Like it's fun at times, but it was sad because like the whole thing is like this alien, like the xenomorph. Like we only really got to see like three different versions of the xenomorph, and I do have some particular thoughts of where they may lean into bringing in a queen and potentially a different way. And I think it leans more into the books. Like Donovan, I don't know if you've ever read any of the books around Alien, and I don't know how much those are just more sort of like fan books that kind of like tie into like the canon events or like how like what could happen. But I could see them pulling a lot into this. But the finale, yeah, it was surprising that they didn't lean into more deaths because it builds up around the cyborgs versus the synths versus the hybrids, and that was like notes that I took like rewatching this because that's really fascinating to me is like the approach in all of these things and just like universal domination basically because as you especially Daniel, as you like get into these other movies you will definitely clearly see like Weyland Yutani is all about universal dominance. Like they are doing everything. And you get more insight into that, I think, in the movies that you haven't seen yet. And now it's just like I think the whole point of this was more so around who's going to rule over Earth, maybe, or the universe. Like, will it be the corporate? Like Tier said, is it the corporations? Is it going to be the synths or these new hybrids? Um,
I mean, I feel like that's kind of answered, right? I mean, like we start. This is like 2 years prior to Alien, or a couple years. I
um,
mean, to me, this is canon to Alien. I don't think it breaks anything. I think it gives more reason. I mean, the original movie come out, it felt like um, the mandate from Mother was if you see an alien, then obviously you have to investigate and bring it to us. And now it really feels more like they sent the crew out there, particularly, or sent multiple crews out there to find something because they already knew
well,
about something.
well,
That feels like the mandate now, particularly from Romulus, even
yeah.
from Alien. I mean, just the way things have kind of worked out, it feels like that's the retcon they've done.
This is where things get weird because like the Alien Earth is 2120, Alien is 2122. But the
Yeah,
whole thing at Alien is that there was a distress call on LV-426.
sure.
Wayland picked it up, and that's why they rerouted it. So
But
there
that's
were,
what they told them, right?
That's
I
what
mean,
they
like
told
that's
them.
the story they told the truckers.
Yeah,
I guess to me is
they
like, why
told
are we assuming it's true?
they
yeah,
told the
exactly.
truckers that, but so Wayland picked up the distress call. The question is like, did they actually know what was on there? Because
Do
they
we actually know there
switched
was a
out.
distress call? Like
Well,
that's
it
where it
was just
gets.
it was a signal, yeah. Like, and that's why they switched a crew member to put in Ash, right? Ash was in there with the primary directive of like the crew can die. We don't care. You need to find this species. And that's why I say it gets loosely canon, right? Because if Alien Earth is going to be true canon, then Wayland Yutani knows about these things because of those events. And like
That's what it feels like to
I
me.
guess
and
Like,
what
that's
yeah,
why
what does
like
that
there are
disagree
moments where it
with?
feels like that they could lean into that for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, to me, it's like obviously this incident. This could be, that even them getting it this first time in Alien Earth. It could not. That may not be the first time. I mean, they clearly went out there and either found it for the first time or
Hmm.
knew about it again already.
And for me, like people used the line from Ash in the first movie as like trying to say it's proof this they didn't know. But like the line about it's a perfect killing machine or whatever he says, right?
Hmm.
Um, but to
Perfect
me, that
organism.
line
Yeah.
indicates foreknowledge.
Yeah.
That line
Exactly.
indicates you
Yeah.
were given a report on this alien before you knew it was there. So you had all this, like an android doesn't come up with prose like that. You're reading off
Yeah.
of like the mission report or something. You know what I mean? Like to me, it just,
And
it
that
feels like, it feels congruent in the way that like they're going in a way that Wayland Yutani was even more evil earlier than we thought. And to me, that doesn't disagree. That feels congruent with the world. In fact, I would have already kind of assumed that these corporate, I mean, like, especially in the kind of post-capitalist society we live in now, no one's you don't find many people cheering on big corporations in general. So like, I feel like we're kind of geared to assume their nefariousness.
And
At least
also,
nowadays, maybe not in the 80s, maybe it's, but nowadays it just feels like, well, of course they're a scummy, evil, profit mongering corporation.
But
Who do-
Prometheus and Covenant answer a lot of
yeah,
that for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. That's my point. Is that Prometheus? I mean, it was kind of a secret that Wayland was on the ship initially, but people, I mean, like, I would assume the higher ups of Utani or whatever or other corporations, I mean, they also are probably on the same track here. Like, they probably also have same similar knowledge. Like, there's other things out there. Wayland is looking for it, whatever. And it makes sense to me that it's kind of like it's the next nuclear option, right? It's
Yeah.
you want to find the next big thing so you can have dominance over other people. And and one thing even before Prometheus ever come out, everyone equated the xenomorph, like the rumor was, the theory was that the xenomorph was a man-made or alien-made
Mhm.
basically nuclear bomb. Like you drop
right.
the xenomorphs on a planet, they clean up, and then you basically terminate the planet, kind of thing. That was kind of or terminate the alien. That was kind of like a theory for a very long time. And there's similar things that kind of happen in Covenant, or at least even the deleted scenes of Covenant. You're like, well, that's what that is. Like that's what they
Yeah.
are. And so anyway, I to me it feels like it's in track. obviously there's more real estate going on here, season 2 and above, if they get renewed, that could totally mess up the canon. You know, that could totally be like, this is not fitting in at all. And again, it's even, and you're right, Daniel. We, and as fans, you mentioned like the mural in Prometheus and like the proto xenomorph or whatever. Like, why is that there? And then why does the protomorph look different, which is at the very end, the last 2 seconds of the film?
Yeah.
Why does that look like that? And then you haven't seen Covenant, but Covenant goes a long way in giving you some kind of concrete reasoning as to why the xenomorph is the way it is. And it's like, but then what about the mural? So I mean, it's kind of fuzzy, and to me, it feels like the ultimate like answer here is there's the engineers, there is the black goo, and the black goo is kind of like this. It's been around for a very long time, and from that we've had different iterations of the xenomorph.
Yeah.
The protomorph, other cultures, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's just gotten to a point. And I think the xenomorph was made before David. I think David was just trying to get it like to get it back to that, to perfect it again. Like, because basically he's like working with like, he's trying to make lasagna and he only has noodles.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he's kind of like, I need some marinara, I need some Italian seasoning. And I think he gets that in Covenant, and I think he's just trying to get back to the original recipe kind of thing. That's my take on it. So
the other piece of the question is like, it feels like we need even another prequel, because I think
we needed a third one for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we need a third one, but I think it's always the question of like, did the engineers create the goo, or was that goo always around and they just discovered it? And I lean towards the engineers did not create that. They found it. They were studying it, trying to understand its origins and how were they using it. Man, this is
and this is also
honestly,
not related to Alien Earth. This is like awesome.
Honestly, that's the part where I'm like, all of that stuff is very interesting to me as kind of background information. But I think it's almost like, what does it remind me of?
Well, it's the equivalent of comic book or Star Wars.
And with Marvel, where like you have to up the stakes every time, so you keep having to get less and less realistic every time, and so it's like, it almost is like the further you try to dive into the alien lore to have a concrete explanation of how everything happened, honestly, the less interesting it gets a little bit, because the more it just kind of feels like to me, the engineers were more interesting before some of the stuff in Prometheus. You know what I mean? Like, it was like there was elements of the mystery that was better to me than what felt like it was trying to reveal. And so I'm personally okay with all of that really not being touched too much in this. Again, it's like the nerd in me, the guy that loves to read Wikipedias and watch hour-long YouTube breakdowns, likes that kind of stuff, likes that nitty-gritty world building. It does feel like those prequel movies were just kind of sloppy in a way that made the world building a little messy to deal with right now, because it just kind of it felt very divisive to the fan bases too. Those movies.
It was very divisive, and you're 100% right in the fact that one of the big problems is because of the nature of the movies and how they were written, how they came out. It made the whole thing it expanded it a lot, but also at the same time made things more confusing, which then forced the fan base to demand answers. Where beforehand, it was fun to theorize about the Force and fun to theorize about where the xenomorph come from, but it didn't matter so much because the Force, the xenomorph, those were just fun and interesting on their own as entities. But when you start kind of opening up the book, but you don't share all the pages, it kind of forces us to want to investigate and like, well, now that you've opened this can of worms up, blah, blah, blah. That being said, I want to tie this back to Alien Earth. Alien, to me, the monster's great. It's super fun. But to me, it works, obviously, is because of relationships. It works because Ripley, you're seeing her journey through Alien 1. You're seeing what she's doing with Newt and Hicks and Alien 2 and those guys. And then in 3 and 4, whatever, Alien Romulus, the most exciting thing about that movie like the Xenomorph's cool. It's a lot of greatest hits. But that movie to me works because of the relationship between her and her android brother. Or synth brother. Yeah. If it didn't have that, it would be even more egregious that they're doing nostalgia and all these other kind of things. But like tying it back to Alien Earth, this is why I do give the show a pass. you don't it could also not been called Alien Earth. It could have just been called something else Earth, and you could have changed the xenomorph out for any other similar looking monster, and it didn't even have to be that. But the show to me works because you have Boy Cavalier. You do have you have Smee. You know, you mentioned like the kids. Like, I mean, to me, like, look at his IMDb. It's Jonathan Ajayi. I think it's how you spell his, or say his last name. He looks like an adult right here, but in the show, Smee, he just the way his body moves is to me is incredible. You know, Kirsch, Wendy. You know, you have I can't think of his name, but the cyborg guy. I always forget his name. Morrow. Morrow's incredible. And then, you know, I mean, like, and so when you have those kind of characters in the relationships and like what their wants are, I think that's what makes the show. That's what makes it exciting. I kind of wish we got more of what Morrow wants. We got a little taste of it here.
agree.
He's like, what's the cost? And he's like, everything. And I kind of chuckled because his response was, it's even more than that. And I was kind of like, but I mean, it's kind of a great line, but I want to be like, well, what's your answer? Like, what would you have said?
What-
You know, like,
or just been like, so what's more than everything? Just ask.
yeah, that's what I would have done. Wow.
Infinity. It cost
And-
infinity. It
What
feels
was
like-
your? Like it was kind of like he answered like the right question. He was like, "Well, I have to make this sound even cooler." My response, you know,
Yeah.
you know. So anyway, but like to me, like I wanted more of that in the finale. I wanted more of like I'm convinced Morrow is actually not. I think he's the good guy. I think he's
probably the most sympathetic, empathetic
Yeah.
character here. Even if we don't know all of, like, I think he's the most like
good.
doesn't have ulterior motives. Maybe other than the children. I do feel like the children feel like victims, and so they're just like they're more innocent, even just because they're killing. It's. I mean, like they're like. It feels more justifiable in that you put underdeveloped brains through this crazy shit that they're probably even dead, and now they're robots that are aware they're like. To me, the children being violent and killing people is much more like, yeah, they kind of bought that ticket, didn't they? When they chose this thing, this is obviously going to happen. I don't blame the kids for doing this. There's been kids where Morrow, like, you can still like you empathize, you understand why he's doing, but he's still he's doing some things over the line that are maybe beyond justified. He's doing things that he doesn't necessarily can't justify all of his actions, and but I think that's also what makes him interesting. It makes him the wild card to a degree. He's also the one guy that you can see changing his mind at the last second and betraying his like he's like the one guy that feels like he's got somewhat of a moral compass, but also understands the reality of the world they live in and what he can and can't do. Anyway, I agree, Donovan. I think to me, and to a degree, horror, right? Like the genre of horror, scaring people isn't a crutch, but it's like that's 30% of what you have to do to be good at horror is like just scare people, right? Be creepy and scary. You're 1/3 of the way of making a good horror movie. Now, the best ones scare you in smart ways and do it unpredictable ways and all these kinds of things. But at a level like when you give someone horror, they know for a fact I'm coming in here to be creeped out, to be scared. That's part of what I'm buying a ticket for. And so like I like that the show was more concerned with being creepy and scary than necessarily explaining everything, and that it then just let the relationships carry the thing forward. Let's be creepy, let's be scary, let's be, talk about these corporations. But I agree, Donovan, like I'm watching because I like Wendy and Morrow and Kirsch, and I'm just waiting to see how Boy Cavalier dies. Like I don't like him. I'm excited to see his. Like he feels like a Joffrey.
Yeah,
me,
he's a new
he's
Cersei,
like,
100%
you're
Joffrey.
enjoy the moment that eye gets in him or whatever. But and so like and that's why I'm on board. That's why I want season 2, because I want to finish these character stories. I want to see how these characters end up. And part of it too is because these kids feel like game changers potentially to this universe. Like there was almost a version of the show where I expected this season to end with like one survivor. You know what I mean? Because they had to justify why these aren't widely known things that exist, or people aren't choosing to do this. Anyway, so
there's a version where Wendy shows up in Romulus too, whatever that is. I could see that happening, at some point. I do have a few questions for Luke, just because I want his perspective real quick, and these don't have to be super long answers, but how did you feel about her training the xenomorphs?
A little cheesy. Um, yeah, that's okay. So that's where things get interesting, maybe, but like that's where a lot of this show felt rushed. You know, you look at okay. I feel like I can go on this. I'm gonna try to keep it short, because the big thing
Yeah.
is like we have cyborgs, synths, and these new hybrids, right? The synths we're generally familiar with, like those are around. Those are really through Wayland Yutani. The cyborgs are new, and it's curious to see like how much of the cyborgs are fully human versus have some sort of control from a corporation, right? I'm very fascinated with what Daniel was saying with Murrow, right? Because clearly, like he's more human than synth like. So I'm very curious where that could
Well, I
go.
think his line, he's like, I'm all the worst parts of being human. Which to
Yeah,
me
yeah,
says it's
yeah.
like, well, that means all your internal organs are probably like all the vulnerable parts of being human are what you are, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Or like yeah. That's how I
But
read it. But yeah, I'm interested to
but
see how they flesh that
so
out.
this is where things could have gone in so many different directions, right? Especially with Wendy. Like Wendy, this is where I feel is rushed. Like Wendy has all like can just tap into the network and do all of these crazy things. Why couldn't Kirsch do that? Or why couldn't the other synth that was like boy's dad, quote unquote,
But I assume that was a
that he
hybrid
built?
ability,
Maybe
not a
it's a
synth
hybrid,
or.
but again, this
But
goes
but I
into
will say I think it did feel a little super
it
powery.
it goes
Like
into like what like on Agents of Mace, we kind of bring this stuff up all the time in the Marvel world, right? It's just you kind of have to like you're in this world, you just agree with it, It's just kind of they do it, you just have to expect like they can do these kind of things. But I'm trying to look at like Wendy and how she's discovering the sounds of the xenomorph and communicating into how David was just so, from a synth perspective, had this internal mission of like creating this perfect organism, right? Like that's all David wanted to do. Where I could see this going with Wendy and her connection with the xenomorph is I believe in some of the books there is what they call a synth queen. So it's like a synthetic android that essentially like becomes like a queen, quote unquote, to the xenomorphs in a weird way. So like
Hmm.
maybe they could go down that pathway. Maybe Wendy discovers that there can be a queen that can lay the eggs and do all of that, and but she kind of reigns over that queen in a way, right?
Interesting.
I did.
I
I mean,
kind of
I've definitely felt that it was like Wendy's the surrogate queen. Like that's
Yeah,
what she's becoming,
yeah,
yeah.
and she's gonna have her own little brood kind
right.
of thing.
Well, I don't expect that relationship to last indefinitely. I kind of equate novels, IP franchise as the
Hmm.
same way like kind of George Lucas does with Star Wars.
Hmm.
Is like the gospel is like anything. It's like film, or
Hmm.
it goes film like first,
Yeah,
then TV,
yeah,
then books and everything else. Like to me, it's like, and it's kind of like the books are like maybe secondhand knowledge passed
sure,
down from other
yeah,
generations.
right.
And not saying it's not canon, but that's kind of how I look at those kind of things overall. Yeah,
That's
no,
how I'm trying to look at it as well, because it's hard for me to see them really going that direction. But on the other side, what we also talk about with like the Marvel TV series and movies, Marvel was doing this way where they're trying to intertwine them, and it got really confusing to the audience. So I'm very curious, like if they will, if they continue Alien Earth, if they'll just try to make it TV series. Like you don't need to worry about the movies. Like the TV
well,
series is
I
what,
don't think so because last movie was very successful, and it
yeah,
wasn't like they had the movie and then they're making the TV show because the movie's so popular.
right,
These two things are in development at the same time.
yeah,
It was like they were in development. Alien Covenant was like very missed for the company, and
yeah,
they were like, "We're going to do these two things," and they end up somehow both being able to pop at least somewhat.
hmm,
And so I think it was kind of like, anyway. So I don't think it was a reaction to the movies or anything like that. But I think they should both go. I think they should have it stay like I would like 3 seasons of this, or 3 or 4 max, and then I think
Yeah,
we should
I'm
keep
cool with
getting
that
the
as well. I'm just curious if they're going to start intertwining them,
I
right?
think the safest option is to keep it vague. Keep
I
it
agree-
where
I do
it
too.
could.
That's what
both-
I'm for as
it
well.
could be
I hope they
canon
do
and it
that.
could not be canon. And I
I
think
agree.
that's probably what you have to do if like just going forward, if you're wanting to do any kind of world building in the Alien universe because of the messiness we talked about with the prequels, you kind of have to be loose with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You kind of just
Yeah.
have to be like, here, this happened at some point. We're not going to talk about anything else around it, and it could support it. Or it
I
could
hope it is separated. It's just not like the Avengers where like I want these two heroes to meet. I don't need
Oh,
Wendy
no.
to
Yeah,
meet
God.
Day or whatever his name was in Romulus, the android. I don't need
Yeah.
that to happen. They have their own journey and story. They're trying to become free, and she
Right.
is too in a way. But like,
Yeah.
it's much more. It's like to me, and they're also just way different. They're like separated by hundreds of years or something like that. Or no, it's only 3 years. It's only separated by 3 years. 3 or 4 years. But
Yeah.
point is, like, I don't need the connection for these two because the xenomorph is what connects them. It's also just so unique because it's like a Star Wars or Marvel versus like a horror franchise where the monster is like the connective tissue and the relationships can be anything. They can be totally different.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not always a hero's journey, kind of like
Yeah.
it doesn't like, especially when you look at the Alien movies. Like, yeah, the first few are like heroine hero journeys, typical, but then they aren't after that. I mean, they still are like the girl survives a lot, but she's even in Prometheus, she's not a Ripley. She's not a badass killing everything girl. She's a barely survived being pregnant with one of these things girl.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Ripley come back in some form because of the events of Resurrection. Just because I like that, like, I'm curious as to what happened to her, and like, ideally we would have had Ripley and Hicks on Earth. That was the original Alien 3. That was like the plan. And we know how that worked out. It didn't work out. But to me, last kind of question here, we kind of start wrapping things up to get to our, before we go, I think the most exciting thing besides all these relationships, all these characters, and the thing that I was hoping for the most this finale that I did not get is I wanted the eye creature to talk to Boyd Cavalier. And what a great setup of, you see the body in the beginning, and me and Daniel kind of commented, Daniel's best friend, that we kind of commented that, he had he's in the show and like, he hasn't been, in a whole lot of noteworthy things. Yeah. And it was kind of like, I was sad to see him go because I liked his character in the show, and I was like, oh, whatever. And it was a great tee up to have him in the first shot, and then of course there was kind of like this game of who's the eye going to get into, because we saw Cavalier kind of not even toying with it, but blatantly saying out loud, even to around his employees, someone's going to get the eye.
How do you feel about your eyes?
How do you feel about your eyes? I'd be like, motherfucker, I just killed. I'd be like, I'd be done. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so anyway, to me, it feels like that thing is going to talk to Boyd Cavalier or something. And I want to know what that thing is seeing. I want to know what that thing is thinking. Like, to me, that is the most exciting thing about this show right now. Anyway.
That could be really interesting. I mean, and for all we know, it could just be maybe it knows about the xenomorphs. Maybe it knows about, maybe it warns them about the queen that's,
I do wonder, because the show has given the eyeball, I would say, as much or more spotlight than the xenomorphs, which okay, fair to, if you don't like that, I understand, but I loved the other aliens. In fact, I felt like we should have gotten more other alien deaths. Like that plant thing only killed that one chick. You know what I mean? I was like, I needed more. But I mean, it does make me wonder if they're going to use this alien for a more lore thing, like just to be like, because it is like, it seems incredibly intelligent. I mean, what we do see, we saw it made that one guy snarl in episode 5. Like, it lifted up his lip to make him snarl. But so it has some sort of even social awareness, right?
Yeah. It knows the square root of pi. Like, it's like stomping its hooves, being I know pi, bitch.
And so like, it makes me wonder, just because like, intelligent life is another nuclear bomb, other than killer alien. Well, like, that's almost a different nuclear bomb for this universe. Like, oh wait, there's things that are smart out there that can kill us and control. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, in some ways, the eyeball feels like it's like, well,
it's a bigger threat.
Like or like, I mean, what an obvious or a easy way they could go with it is, it's like, it's a fucking what do you call it? hive mind. Like there's shit tons of these, and you know what I mean. Like it's basically Starman not Starman, whatever the thing is from Justice.
You're talking about Starro.
Starro. It's like,
I mean, to me, the xenomorphs.
They make an army.
To me, the xenomorphs are hive mind. They communicate through noises, and there's even like implication. There's like telepathy involved in some cases. But I mean, to me, that is a hive mind, and so much so that, typically an alien queen. Well, it's not like it's one consciousness, but it operates like a hive mind. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it operates like an ant hive. Hive mind
Very
is like there is one consciousness.
I know what you mean, like the flood,
that to me,
like in Halo.
I could see the hive being like, oh shit, we are many and we're coming and there's millions of us and we can just take over your bodies and kind of. I mean that would be a very
it's very Borg. Very Borg.
Absolutely. Yep. It's an organic Borg.
My last thought of if they'll explore this at all is surely, and this goes into how canon this series is, but wouldn't Boy Genius have known about Wayland's mission in Prometheus and that Wayland died? Like his whole focus at the end is like, it's like, I just achieved immortality. That's great. That was easy. Whatever. What I'm looking for is intellectual conversations. Like I need to be around those that are smarter than me. And I'm curious of like, how much time did he spend with Wayland? Did he know about Wayland's plans of trying to find immortality as well, but through space, what he's discovered through space? And why didn't Boy want to go into space and try to find the engineers or Paradise or anything else?
I don't think. Okay, when I mentioned earlier that the other corporations know about Wayland, I don't think they knew. The story was Wayland died, right? And that he was gone or whatever, and that basically his reveal that he was in the cockpit.
It was like
exactly.
Years at that point.
His reveal in the cockpit at the end of Prometheus was like no one knew that but like David and like maybe a handful of people. When I said that the corporations knew, they probably all had suspicions or inclinations of what Wayland's thought process was.
Or they knew what he was famously chasing in life.
Exactly.
They knew he would like,
because they're chasing the same thing. They're all similar, right? They're all, once you get power, what do you want? I mean, like they can at least extrapolate like, that guy's a lot like me. What does he want? Probably the same thing I want to. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. Where like they're probably on the same wavelength of like looking for something similar, and they probably thought Wayland was doing this too. Blah blah blah. And again, there's gaps here, right? We don't know what happened after David and Covenant, all these things. But
I would assume, but Prometheus was like no one ever knew about that.
Nobody. It was a secret mission
that never left, and no one survived but David. And at this point, does David go home in Covenant? Does he get back to Earth or go
That's
towards Earth?
To me, it's like David, is not. He's not going back to Earth. You know what I'm saying?
At least my impression of him in Prometheus is like, I'm just going to fuck with anything and go. I mean,
Earth would be a good. Earth would be a good place to go, actually, after Covenant. But I don't think so, because we have the movie called Alien and Aliens and Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection that tell us that did not happen. At least not successfully the way we're thinking, Luke. But
even Aliens Resurrection takes place decades later, right? Or hundreds
of years later. That's what I'm saying. No, if only way David went to Earth was either he succeeded and it's not canon anymore because Earth is just that's not what happened to Earth, or B,
maybe he didn't found Paradise.
Maybe whatever. I don't think so. I don't think he went to Earth, but I think he went to LB-426 is where I think he went. That makes the most sense to me.
Sure.
Maybe. Again, also there's an engineer body there too that's been there for a very long time. It's fossilized, so never mind. But anyway, I don't know. That's the problem with us doing this kind of stuff. But I agree in the fact that I think the I can't think of its name.
Ocelos or P-O, I don't know. They gave it like one of those scientific Latin
There is
names.
A name, yeah. I think it's very exciting, possibility-wise, and not because I need to know what this race is up to. I don't know. I don't need like an existential threat to these other people. I'm just more curious to see how it operates and what its wants are beyond just getting into someone's eye. And so I think it'd be pretty interesting or fascinating. What would be, even more wild is I want the alien xenomorph to get into these other aliens. I want that. We know what the xenomorph looks like inside, you know, a human. But give me what's inside. What happens when it gets inside that giant like squid looking thing? Getting
Yeah.
that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
want to see that xenomorph. And
Right.
so I was hoping we got some of that this season. We did not. Maybe it's for season two. But I'm hoping season two is at least heavier on the xenomorph in terms of just like their threats increasing, their ranks are increasing, and Wendy can't really control it anymore. I want to see more of the eye and what he's up to, and of course, I want to see some of these people finally get their comeuppance,
Yep.
and kind of set the groundwork for Weyland Yutani being the mega corporation that it is. Anyway, I think I kind of covered it. I think we kind of all initially think that the show was good, could have been amazing. It wasn't quite there, but maybe we got places to go in the future. I do want to do our before we go. And so before we go, we like to highlight one last thing that for our audience that may or may not be TV or movie related. Daniel.
Yeah, my before you go is going to be a video game. So, Borderlands 4 recently came out. I have never, ever, ever played a Borderlands game. They just have never really appealed to me. But this one kind of did. The reviews were strong, and it was an open world, which always tickles my fancy. And I'm really enjoying it. I would say it is like one of those games that is like, it's just constant little bitty dopamine hits. The gunplay is fantastic. All the guns feel amazing to shoot, and you're constantly getting new guns that you just kind of have no idea what's going to happen the next time you pull the trigger because they have different things. And so it's just kind of like you're jumping around. The movement is fun. The shooting is good. It's a looter shooter, so you're kind of constantly popping loot boxes to see if you get better gear. So it's kind of giving you those little dopamine hits. It's like, it's not a groundbreaking game. I don't think it's a game that will be remembered. Like, it's not going to like change the way or like really make an impact as a game. But it is just one of those classic feeling, it's a video game that's just here to give you a bunch of dopamine hits while you sit here for an hour kind of thing. And it's not trying to do much more. I would say the humor to me works pretty well. I know that in past Borderlands games, especially 3, apparently the writing and humor was really, really cringe. I've not experienced that here. I've chuckled a few. Like it's funny sometimes. It's got a nice little wry humor, and the voice acting is good. The characters are fun. Like it's not taking itself too seriously, and so I kind of don't either. If I've got an hour and I want to do it, and I just want some dopamine, just sit down, shoot some heads, find some gear, keep going. You know what I mean? It's 4K 60 FPS, so it's good to look at. I'm surprised, I guess, how much fun I'm having with it. And I'm typically a guy that wants a game to have this giant world to sink my teeth in and to get nerdy about. This one just has a fun, random-ass world with silly things and fun shit to shoot and colorful gear to find. It's not trying to be complicated. And in that way, it feels kind of refreshing just because it's like, this absolutely works for everything it's trying to do. It's just not trying to be ridiculous. So Borderlands 4, if you want some dopamine hits, which I know we're all sometimes looking for, that worked for me. So maybe it'll work for you. You're welcome, 2K, for advertising your game for free. So.
Yeah. They need all the advertising they can get. They've had some bad PR lately. Luke, what's your before we go?
Oh yeah. Let's see here. Just something I'm into right now. Could it be something that I built?
It could be anything. It could be anything you want to share with the audience, and it does not have to be movie or TV related, although it can be.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing a lot with AI lately, like really into it.
Cool.
And I'm an idea guy. Like got notebooks with tons of ideas, and I had one particular thing that I was trying to like work on last year, but with AI and how it's evolved, like I wanted to lean into that as an assistant. And so leaning into the horror realm, so I made a new app called 31 Nights of. So basically for the past few years, for October, I always try to watch like one horror movie a night. And a lot of time in the past, it's just like browsing through all our streaming services to find something. But I built an app to where it'll just randomly generate a list for you. And
That's
then
a great
it'll
app.
even tell you like where you can stream it, and you can get all the info on it. And also built like a really fun widget for it, so you can kind of get like more of a schedule view from like just your home screen. iPhone only right now, but like check it out. It's
That's
free.
perfect
I will
time.
be.
I mean, we're
I will be
a
downloading
week
that.
away from October. So what's what's the app called?
31 Nights of.
31 Nights of. Awesome.
My only
That sounds awesome.
my only not complaining, but like I know myself. I know that it's going to suggest something. I'm gonna go no, and I'm gonna
So
is it-
yeah, I'm very
I'm gonna go
curious.
no. But I think it's a great idea though, and like
it's
I think if in practice I would love to
Yeah.
experiment with it. Yeah,
it's a fun idea, and like as I'm building it, just as just kind of like, especially when I got to the final features of like generating these 31 movies, like what it comes up with. Like a few of the alien movies would pop up from time to time. There are some pretty like horror movies that I know like are frowned upon that could show up because I'm
Taboo.
just
sure.
I'm not filtering out anything, so I know like those could pop up.
Well,
where
I
I've
think the ultimate. I mean, not to give you feedback on your app that you didn't.
Yeah, here's how you can fix your app, Luke, real quick. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
mean, the ultimate version of me is where you can like put in your preferences and then it generates them. It's like I
Yeah.
want body horror, I
Yeah.
want 0 to no budget, I want free to stream. Like so you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
put in these parameters and it
sure.
it generates
No,
a list.
I've already thought
And
of that.
then you could go in and say, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen this. So then it doesn't even show you anything you've seen.
yeah, yeah.
Because
So
I know,
they're-
especially with horror fans, there's so much of that stuff on Tubi these days that people love that
Yeah.
is just so
Just classic,
obscure
yeah.
that random people made in Poland 4 years
Right.
ago on no budget. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that kind of stuff could help them.
Yeah, there is a favorite feature, so you can kind of like especially if you're like new to horror and you generate this list and you see something you really like, you can tag it as favorited, so you can always go back and revisit it. But yeah, I can intertwine those things to like if I favorite something, like just don't share that with me again. Like I like it, I will go revisit it. I want to see something new.
I'm sure it
That's
gets
awesome.
messy in terms of the coding and like when you start adding those extra
Yeah,
parameters.
More
Hey,
features.
just
I was
do
like,
this.
can it
Just
also
this.
do?
I know it'll take like a month of coding and like debugging,
Yeah.
but just do it. Just do it.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
with
I
AI,
think it's
I'll,
great.
like probably get it done in a day.
that's great.
All right,
though.
well,
I
then
think
just
it's-
do it.
I do want to
For real,
evolve
then
this.
just
I
do
mean, this could evolve past horror movies. Like you can.
Well, it
get
could
into-
be. I mean, yeah, it's 31 nights of. It could be Christmas. It could be
Yeah,
Halloween.
exactly.
It could be Thanksgiving movies. It could be New Year movie. I mean, like Valentine's Day. That's an app that could literally work for almost any month. Independence
Yeah.
Day. Like here's patriotic movies or like 31 nights of. I did the 31 nights of Nicolas Cage once.
There you
I
go.
got to like
Yeah.
I got to day like 8 or 9, but I had 31 movies.
Yeah.
Of like every night I was watching a Nicolas Cage movie. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do anything, and people could just click. I want 31 nights of Nicolas Cage, and like
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Like that's the way that's how you get big. That's as big as you can get, really. So
Sure, yeah.
get to work on that, and I'll download it, and then I want 10% for my contributions.
All right.
So anyway, my before we go is Daniel already knows this, but I'm a huge The Bear fan, and I consider season 1, season 2 like 11 out of 10s. Season 3, I still love season 3. It didn't reach the heights of season 1 and 2, but I'm okay with that. Now everything needs to be bigger and better than the previous incarnation, right? It's sometimes like being really good is good enough. Sometimes we get into these like Spider-Man Brand New Day has to be better than No Way Home or it's a failure. It's like, no, it doesn't. Like we can have things that are good or amazing. Like not everything it's either like it's amazing or it's just bad. That's like the two options people feel like they have. So season 3, I really liked it still. Didn't reach the heights to it, but that's okay. Season 4, I don't know if I have a ranking for it yet, but I just ultimately come to the conclusion that I just love this world. I love the filmmaking, the characters. I can't picture another cast of characters that feel more real in their interactions with each other, that feel more in their dialogue, how natural it feels sometimes, and some of the relationships that feel like I've never seen that in a real life before, but I know that relationship exists somewhere, and also it can feel chaotic and anxiety inducing, but that show is about like healing, and it's about your relationships with your family and relationships with like your not blood family, like your found family. And this season 4, I probably cried like 4 times. I was just crying watching these scenes, like watching these people act their ass off. I do think the finale should have been probably the episode 1 of season 5. The show peaked in the penultimate. That was kind of like, for me, like that was the emotional peak. And the finale was kind of like, okay, We're just kind of dealing with some fallout. But overall, I still really loved it. I'm very curious to see where it goes. It feels like if they haven't already announced it, season 5 will be the last season. And so,
Maybe, yeah.
maybe
I
not.
think they recently said they wanted more, which honestly, that's the part that
It's just
the
getting
only
harder.
reason I didn't watch season 3 was that the reviews said it's basically feels like half a season that they stretched into 2. Like it felt like they stretched out plot lines for more real estate, for more show to make more
Sure.
money. And that's always the worry. So I mean, like I want to get back into it. Season 1 and 2 were amazing to me.
Yeah.
I'm a little, I guess, I don't want to get my heart broken. You know,
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm
Game
the
of
same.
Thrones happened, and it
Yeah,
was real.
it's not, and it's not like that, you know. And again, I'm telling this to you, Daniel, and I'm going to say it to our audience, like, not everything has to be better than, you know, like sometimes it can just be good. And season 3 does not break anything. It's still
No,
really good,
it's-
and at least come for the filmmaking alone. Like, I get anxiety just thinking about the shot list. You know, I'm like, how do they do this? Or like their music choices or just the scenery
yeah.
choices and everything about it. I love the world, and I was having a great week of like every night putting on I watch a lot of things in VR, putting my VR on,
nice.
being in a movie theater, and
Yeah.
just getting to be in this world with these characters and getting to forget about everything else going on in life. And I'm sad it's already over, and I cannot wait for season 5, and I'm hoping that 5 or 6 or whatever the ending is, they need to do it in a real way, like in a way that feels satisfying.
Yeah.
And to me, why I think 5 could be the end, you have the actor Carmy. I mean, he's fixing to be the Bubba Fett or the Jabba the Hutt like character that Mando is trying to protect. Like he's a big character in that. I think he's going to start exploding more in terms of getting more roles and on the big screen. And Eben Moss Bacharach, he is the thing now. And while you can do both, I think he also could. And he's the thing. It's mocap. You don't really see his face. I can see him getting more theatrical roles as well. I can see the budget starting to stretch.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
I think Evan. I think he's the best actor on the show, personally, just in terms of
The episode
After they-
Forks.
Oh, Forks is a
Forks
perfect
is
episode of television.
perfection.
yeah. Well,
it
I
is.
just think he shows the most range in a believable way than any of the other characters.
Well,
Like,
it
he-
feels like he shouldn't be an act. It feels like he's just a guy that happened to fall
Yes.
into the
Fall into
show.
the show, yeah.
yes,
And you're like,
yes.
you're an
I
actor.
can't wait to see where his career goes because it feels like he could do a lot of awesome stuff.
Oh yeah, and lastly, the main girl,
Ayo.
who, yeah, I think she's even being rumored to be in a Marvel project, and she's rumored to be in a Marvel project, and so like I'm saying, these actors, if they are not in something, they're going to be in something, and I can see
She's in
the
everything.
strain. Yeah, I can see the strain happening in budgets and scheduling pretty soon. So, and the show isn't as looked upon as highly as it was a few years ago. So anyway, that's my before we go. And of course, Superman is out on Blu-ray right now. I don't have the Steelbook, Luke. I don't know what happened.
I missed out on it too.
I was like, the day it came out, I looked and it was like already sold out. And I'm
Already
like,
sold
what
out.
I was like, it blew me away,
Damn.
honestly. And I've looked every day for like 6
Same.
months. And I can't find it.
It-
And
We'll probably come back maybe early next year.
It seems pretty
I did
telling though of like the fan
the
fervor
oh yeah.
for it. I mean, like the
I
Blu-ray
did
It's
pre-order-
heartbreaking.
I pre-ordered First Steps.
Heartbreaking.
Steelbook.
it's heartbreaking that I
That you
can't
couldn't
get it.
Oh, okay. But it's
Yeah.
encouraging for the franchise that you can
Yeah.
get it, right? Like that's to
Yeah.
me, that's a positive sign for DC.
Honestly,
Walking Gun.
I think honestly, my inclination is that it's scalpers. It's not fans. That's my real thinking on this one.
But even then, scalpers wouldn't do it if they didn't think
that's
fans
true.
would buy it.
That's true. That's
I
true.
mean,
Hey,
scalpers scalp and Nintendo and
Hey,
Sony are on it for a reason.
I like this line of thinking, Daniel. I'm not
Hey,
against
that's
it.
just if as an outside, I'm like, hey, that's a good sign. If
Yeah,
you can't,
but because I had to own it, I bought the lenticular Walmart version. And yes, yes, Luke, I also pre-ordered the Fantastic Four First Steps.
Nice.
I think I don't have the Amazon exclusive. I have the regular Steelbook because I like the cover for that one better. So anyway, Luke, tell our listeners how they can find you and all the cool things that you do.
Yeah, definitely. So youtube.com/Luke Irvin. More shorts than full length. I've just been like insanely busy with work, but I'm gonna get back to doing reviews soon. Like I'm still watching movies like every week and I got a lot of reviews I need to catch up on. And Agents of Mace is Marvel-based podcast. So we're getting ready to talk about Marvel Zombies is the new series coming up. So if you guys are into that and want to join us, we'd love to have you. Because that's one I'm super excited about. Can't wait to check that out.
I still haven't finished What If season 3 or season 2 actually.
I haven't watched season 2 or 3. I know. I love season 1. I
liked it a lot.
It's the Marvel fatigue.
I mean,
it's
what
real
if
right now for me.
What if though? Like, I mean, they did tie it into a story in a way, but there's only one zombie specific episode in that. Marvel Zombies is gonna be like its own thing. 4 episodes.
I mean, the trailer I saw was Spider-Man doing some crazy stuff. I was kind of like, this is
so cool.
This is pretty sick.
And all episodes dropped today on Disney Plus.
Are they doing that like shiny art style that they did?
It's the same as What If.
It's same art style as What If. Yeah.
Half the time I like it, half the time I don't.
Yeah, I agree. I need to watch the Wakanda thing too. The animation stuff doesn't grab me as much, obviously, as the live action stuff. All right, cool. That's very cool. I'm going to watch those. I already made a decision earlier this morning. I was going to watch those probably tonight because that's something that River's like, oh, superheroes and zombies. That sounds like up his alley, you know?
Oh, my kids are gonna love it.
Exactly. And yeah, maybe if we could figure out the scheduling, I'll if you want me to come, I'll join on Agents of Mason and give my real therapy perspective. Awesome guys. I'll make sure to leave all your information in our description below, Luke. It was really an honor for have you to come on to Real Therapy for your first time, being a guest, and I love hearing your perspective on things. And we'd love to have you on some other show in the future, hopefully in the near future. I know we're finishing up Peacemaker, I believe next week or next 2 weeks or something like that. But I'm sure there's plenty of shows dropping down. The shows and movies dropping in pretty soon that we can talk about. If you haven't already, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say we could stay in this universe and wait till Badlands comes out. Predator Badlands.
Oh, that'd be great. I would love to have you for Predator Badlands. That'd be fantastic. I think it's a good idea. So our listeners, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/@realtherapypod. And of course, on all podcast services, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. There's like 7 other more I don't even know the name of, or even like listen to, but it's everywhere. The podcast is everywhere. Only 5 stars. Subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us out a lot. My name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
I'm Luke Irvin.
And we'll see you at your next session.
Real Therapy is brought to you by 241 Studios and viewers like you. Thanks for stopping by. Remember to tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. for a new session with Daniel and Donovan. And remember, they're gonna talk about how it makes them feel. They're gonna watch all the movie reels, 'cause it's Dan and